The Voice campaign has had a couple of blows in WA. The WA Nationals withdrawing their support for the Yes vote. WA Liberal leader Licky Meta also withdrawing her support for the Yes vote. Both of them blaming the WA heritage laws that have now been rescinded and saying they can't trust Labor to implement it. What do you say to that? Is that political point scoring, or is there genuine concern about what the Voice will look like?
Well, it's more about the internal dynamics between the Liberal Party, the National Party, who the leader of the opposition is, about those dynamics. One of the recent times when I was here in WA, I was somewhat stunned that they were having leadership ballots in a party that had been reduced to so few people. I think this is an issue that should be above politics. It's a very clear question that is being asked of the Australian people. I'll be making an announcement later this week about a timetable consistent with what I said more than a year ago now. But this will provide for just three things: recognising First Nations people in our nation's constitution. Secondly, allowing an advisory group, the Voice, to enable Indigenous Australians to be listened to on matters that affect them. And thirdly, the point of that is to get better results from Indigenous people. We know that the Closing the Gap targets, only 4 have been met or are on track. And if we do things the same way, we should expect the same results. This is about getting better outcomes for Indigenous Australians, which is why it is overwhelmingly supported by Indigenous Australians.
The polling isn't looking good. Realistically, do you think that West Australians can be convinced to support this voice?
Absolutely, I do. And what I know is that Western Australians, whether it is companies like Rio Tinto and the entire mineral sector, like the Business Council of Australia, are very supportive, because they know that this is also about Australia's reputation and the way that we're seen. Whether we're a mature nation who can come to terms with the fullness and richness of our history, it's being supported by every faith group here in Western Australia and around the country. It's being supported by sporting organisations, including the AFL. And the feedback that I have from people who've been here and who've been out there door knocking is that when people put to them what the question actually is, they respond very positively. This is a very gracious request from Indigenous people just to be recognised and to be listened to through the Voice. And if the Voice is a bad idea, then why is it that Peter Dutton and the Liberal Party nationally are saying that they will legislate for a Voice? That is what they're saying, that is what their party room decided, which undermines the contradiction which is there.
Prime Minister, do you accept though that
Whoa.
Prime Minister, you've praised a number of times the Liberals who do support the Voice. Do you think that that's actually helpful to Liberal supporters who are then seeing others within the party change their minds? Are people able to separate their politics in an election from the fact that this is a referendum?
Well, quite clearly, people like Julian Leeser and Bridget Archer, the New South Wales Liberal leader Mark Speakman, the Liberal Premier of Tasmania, he's the only one who's actually in office, are all supporting a yes vote in this referendum. This is something that should be above politics. This is something where, a bit like the apology, when it happens, you won't be able to find anyone in 10 years putting their hand up and saying that they were glad that they opposed it, because this is only upside. There is no downside to listening to people on matters that affect them.